So, welcome to another episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. I'm Raisa
And I'm Gloria.
and today we have Council Member Wannika Fisher, who represents District 2 and chairs the Council's Health, Human Service, and Public Safety Committee. She's not only been a dynamic leader in the local policy, she's now running to become Prince George's State Attorney. Today we'll get to know more about her background, her policies, and what she has for the future. Help us welcome Miss Wanika.
Welcome, Miss Wanika.
Thank you, ladies, so much for having me. Thank you, Gloria and Raisa, for all that you're doing in our community and just providing an amazing platform for education and fellowship.
Amazing.
Thank you. Ms. Wanika, I wanted to know, I know your background is pretty diverse. How has your Nigerian and South African Indian background shaped you into who you are today?
I mean, I could probably just tear up. And I think most of us that families who have journeyed through a lot to come to this country to build a future, if you really think about it, it's quite emotional. So, my parents came here a little under 40 years ago. They built a business, they had kids. My dad is Nigerian and he was born in Lagos, and he's an amazing, intense Nigerian father. And then my mom is South Asian, South African. So my family on my mom's side has been in Durban, South Africa for the past 300 years. And my parents, which is a little unique for immigrant couples, my parents met in New York and got married and had kids. So they didn't immigrate to the US together, which is more traditional. So I think for me, my parents have always, I'm one of 4 kids, African families. I was traditionally pushed, as a Nigerian, if you're not a doctor, lawyer, engineer, they don't understand. So here I am as a lawyer. But I think my parents, their courage is probably one of the biggest things that has helped shape me. I think my upbringing was very different, and not only being from an immigrant background, seeing my parents become U.S. citizens in my teens, my early teens, and then just seeing all of the risks that they took. And I think I think a lot about, and how I really probably entered my career, is a lot of people that I don't know the name of today fought for justice and fought for the right thing. And that's how my family ended up in the United States. And that's what I think about in the work that I do every day. How can I make Prince George's County a better place, Maryland and our country a better place for other families and other kids to have the opportunities that I have had. So I think that's how it really, I think, impacts me in a daily way and in a real way.
Thank you for that real and honest answer. Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by our sponsor, MoMA Law Firm.
At MoMA Law, they believe your story matters. Whether you're applying for citizenship, fighting deportation, or bringing your family together through a petition, they have a team to serve you as clients, and they are able to serve in all 50 states.
Yes, so you can actually contact them today at MoMA Law Firm 214-919-5330.
Do not forget to reach out to MoMA Immigration Law Firm to make sure that all your immigration needs are met. Thank you. All right, so I would dive deep into what you have done in the past. So you made national headlines for passing a law requiring county to cover elective egg freezing for employees in DC area. First in DC area. Some people would say this is just a niche issue that is not really that serious. What do you have to say to that?
I say, well, one, if you're not a woman, I don't think I need your opinion. But 2, I would say that, I can only come to the space for my experience. And as a young lawyer, well, I was a young lawyer. I'm not young anymore, but
you still are.
Yeah. But as a woman that again, my family pushed education, which was amazing. But I think for women in particular, there are always choices to be made. And one of the choices that I didn't fully realize as a young person was, the more I pursued my career, I went to law school. I, worked in New York City. Then I worked here. Then I became a prosecutor. Then I got elected. I didn't realize that that was impacting my childbearing years in the unique way it really was. And I think women who didn't have a voice, we have it was about 2,600 women that work for Prince George's County government who are under 40. So that means a lot of them, they might not get the glamour or the media attention that I do, but they're giving their youth to serve our county, to serve our residents, to serve our seniors, to serve our children, to serve the dispossessed. And so they still deserve the chance to be mothers if that's what they choose to do. And I would say, if you're educated on insurance, every month that I pay insurance, and as a young person, I have to say I'm very blessed, and I do try to eat well, even though I'm a curvy young person. I do try to eat well and I do work out. Yeah. I don't have chronic or any health issues. So I'm actually one of the cheapest people paying into insurance because I don't withdraw for anything really. Maybe one inhaler. That's it. And so I'm paying for everyone else's hip replacement. I'm paying for everyone else's diabetes care. I'm paying for everyone else's dialysis. I'm paying for everyone. I don't really have intense vision problems. I'm paying for people's glasses. That's how insurance works. You all pay and then you withdraw when you have an issue. Yeah. And so what it's saying that our new insurance in the county will cover elective egg freezing. We already cover egg freezing if you're trying to have a baby and it's not working, or you get diagnosed with cancer. So we know you're going to go through radiation, right? So you're going to lose your eggs in that process. But we don't cover it just because you're aging. And you might not have a partner right now, and you might not know what you're going to do, but you know that every year goes by, your egg quality is getting worse and worse. And it's more expensive for me to pay later on with an older egg. So it didn't make economic sense for our county because, like I said, if you continue to be a county employee, we're going to pay if you try and you don't get pregnant anyway. And then number two, I'm going to preserve the best quality egg the younger you are. And so when I actually went on my own egg freezing journey last year, and I realized I do a lot of work. I love this county. I will continue to do a ton of work for this county. But I realized my insurance wasn't going to cover anything. It made me pause and say, well, what is it doing for all the young women that work for the county? And I would also say it's a very limited thing. You know, most women aren't going to work for the county at 18. So the cost is minimal. It's really women that are in their 20s and 30s, and they elect to do so. Yeah. And when it says, for the naysayers, when it says it covers, right? Yeah. It's a very unique thing. Maybe in a couple of years, something like that would be 100% covered. Coverage doesn't mean there's no bill for that young woman. Coverage means you partially pay. Like when you go to the doctor, you pay a copay, or you pay the remainder of the cost for the insurance. So I'm just asking for some of the money you've been paying into the insurance, you get some relief. It is not going to 100%. I didn't demand 100% coverage. Right. I just demand that it's covered. So some part of this is going to be covered for you. And yes, the rest you will have to go out of pocket. So it's really meeting the young woman who wants to invest. And this investment can be $10,000 to $20,000 into her family dreams or hopes, some support that she's already been paying to everybody else. Right. So that is really, I think, why I got a unanimous vote. I know my colleague in DC, Miss Brooke Pinto, who I'm good friends with, she's looking to do this for DC because young women are making up the workforce in a big way. And we do want to have families and we do want to be mothers, but our windows are just a little bit different. Yeah. And so I felt like it was necessary to put the bill in, not just for myself, but for young women that come up, and also just the attention. I was at some of our universities and I said, if I could go back, I would have done my egg freezing in law school. It's something that should have been built into all, especially if you go to a higher degree than college, because the propensity for women with graduate, law school, or doctor or MDs, you'll statistically have children later, and you're actually stationary in one place with pretty good health care to help and friends to help you through it. And so I think it's about talking about things like this, because when I meet young women around the county or even the country who may have the means to do it, I don't want them to be in the situation I found myself in. And I want to push, my next push, hopefully we'll be pushing, like I said, post undergrad schools to offer that to women that attend, like I said, those kind of schools, because we already statistically know they're going to need it. Yes. And it's the best time to do it while you're studying.
Yeah.
And so, but nobody ever talked about it. Nobody ever said anything. And definitely coming from a very traditional African and South Asian cultural background, it was just not
Yeah.
spoken about at all.
Yeah.
And so I just had no guidance in what to do. And I also, for the women in my family, they sacrificed a lot. I have the highest degree of all the women in my family. They didn't have the experiences. They got married younger than I clearly am, because I'm unmarried right now. So they didn't really have that kind of auntie or motherly advice, because it's such a unique situation to very much our generation. And yeah, I think that's where it really came from. And it did get a lot of attention and some negative attention. But I find it so interesting in the national conversation that wants to be against choice, wants to be against abortion rights, but you're not for women wanting to be mothers. I can't seem to come to terms with those two opinions in the same person.
Right. Just to piggyback off what you're saying, I believe, it's a really great initiative. I actually learned about it while doing some research about you. And both Raisa and myself right now, we don't have any children at the moment. And I think those are really good, initiatives that you're doing and for people to look into, especially young women like ourselves that are working and, trying to get all these degrees, right? And it's like we have an option where we know, okay, this is what you can do while you, like you said, like you wish you did it while you were still in law school. So it's really good that you are actually pro-choice and you're actually, standing up for something and sharing these resources. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, that's really great. I actually have a friend too. She's an NP, and we've been having this conversation. I was like, this is interesting. She's like, yeah, you need to think about like freezing your eggs now, especially if you're not sure when you're gonna settle down. Like you don't know what the future holds. You're busy and stuff. And I was like, wow, I never thought of that. She's like, yeah, but you need to start thinking about it. You need to start looking into it and seeing, because the eggs you have now, just like you said, it's not the same you're gonna have in 2, 3 years. In next year, right? It's not gonna be the same thing. So
we don't talk about, I would say half my friends have kids, half don't, my close friend circle. And we don't talk about how precious young women are. My male friends, when they become fathers to girls, I say, you're around half your grandchildren right now. When a baby girl is born, she is born with the exact amount of eggs she's ever going to have.
Wow.
So half your future grandchild is in your living room right now, in your toddler, right? And how precious cargo that is, because women's bodies are understudied and we're underdiscussed. And when you realize that, I mean, the shock in my male friends' faces who are amazing fathers of their daughters, I was like, your future grandchild's in there. You create for men, they create more.
Right.
You're given the same amount you have since birth.
So whatever we're born with, that's it. That's all you're ever gonna get.
That's all you're gonna get in there. Now it's follicles.
I didn't even know that.
It's I've learned a lot. It's follicles. And that's why you have the cycle and the hormones come and like activated. It's like dormant, right? It's like sleeping when you're a little kid.
You have to wake it up.
Right. It wakes up when you go through puberty and you get hormones, and then you have your cycle. And that's why your cycle is the egg did not get fertilized and the egg's dropping. That's your cycle. But we are so uncomfortable in our society to talk about what is a period. It's not you bleeding. Your egg was there, nothing happened to it. And so it's dropping and the uterine line is shedding with it. Like, is it a dirty word to say the uterine lining? I'm going to say that as a politician, because there's nothing wrong with my body. There's nothing wrong with women's bodies. And yet everybody knows the term for everything in a male's body. And how male bodies work. And I think I think that's also why when it comes to it all intersects. When we look at crimes that women are victim of, most women will die at the hand of their partner. Statistically, all of the things that impact the safety of women, when you get down to the root to it, it's, are women valued? Are we equal? And is your body autonomous? And the answer is no to really all those questions if we face it.
Which is sad, yeah.
And so we have to, as women that have platforms or that are educated, we have to speak to that, because I think it saves the lives of other women, but also there are so many great men and allies out there. They just don't know. Right. My male friends, when I talk about this issue, especially if they're girl dads, they're just curious to know. They just haven't had the information to understand. And most women have not had the information to understand. And I've had to do a lot of studying outside. I was a Planned Parenthood leader class and all these things to even understand how my own body works and what's in it. And I think it's really important that we understand that, because if you were creating new eggs all the time, egg freezing wouldn't be so needed. You would have something fresh. Right. So think about it. It's not fresh. They're in a fridge for a really long time inside of you. And so, you know, when you explain it to young people like that, it also helps understand why it is a financial investment, but it might be a worthy one.
Thank you so much for that insight. Just to pivot a little bit, as a councilwoman, how do you stay connected to everyday concerns of your residents? You know, housing concerns and transportation concerns that, you know, may come across your desk. How do you handle those?
I think for a council person, it's a little easier because I live with my residents, and I also choose to live in the more working class part of my community. You know, my community, my district's very cool. I represent the Hyattsville, Langley Park, Adelphi, Mount Rainier part of our county. I border DC and I border Montgomery County, so I have a very rich and diverse community. There's parts of my district that are definitely wealthier. There are parts that are very working poor and parts that are middle class. And where I choose to live in my community is right in between those two. So when you talk about transportation, I'm on the metro with my residents.
Really?
I'm at the, I use the metro all the time. I'm on transit. I advocated for Purple Line when I was in college. What can be very weird is that I shop at Prince George's Plaza Mall. If you've ever been there, it's in my district. And when I was a young, and when I was a young prosecutor, it was funny because people that I either put in jail and came out or I prosecuted would recognize me in the mall. So I also always lived where I prosecuted, and it gives you a different taste of your residents than living in like a gated community in our county or living just somewhere else and you don't use, you know, anything. So I feel like for me, it's quite it's easy in two ways, in that I live, I eat, I work, I play with my residents. And I also find I have some of the best residents in the world. If I don't know what's going on, they definitely make sure I do. We have some amazing community leaders, civic leaders that contact my office and let me know about stuff, because it is true. I can't drive on every street and every problem every day. So even today, I had a senior just highlight some things wrong within an elementary school that I'm going to be following up on, you know, so they'll see things in their regular route and they just let my office know. And so it's a group effort to make our districts beautiful and better. And I'm really lucky that I have great community partners to do that with.
Okay.
I love that. Thank you.
Okay, so let's get into budget a little bit. Okay, so Prince George's is facing a budget shortfall that could reach $2,247,000,000 this year, within the next 6 years, due to, of course, you know, everything happening with our government right now. So if you're elected state attorney, what would you do? You know, how would you bring some financial awareness to the justice system, or what will you do to try to reduce this shortfall?
Yeah, I think as state's attorney, it's a very different job. The budget lies with the county executive and the county council that I serve in with now. They have to balance it, and they're the ones, them and the state government, have the authority to levy taxes or not, or incentivize development. I think as state's attorney, the way I impact the budget is working smarter, not harder, when it comes to keeping people safe, right? It's very expensive to incarcerate someone. It's very expensive to make the wrong decision and have the county sued. It's very expensive when police have a use of force that's wrongful and the county gets sued, right? So my job as state attorney is going to be very different than when I get into the weeds of the budget now as a council member, but to make sure that I'm using the dollars for my office effectively, efficiently, and with prudence. And that's what I think is important for me. And it's also important for me to build collaboration with the county executive's office and with and with the council, because sometimes people end up in crimes and different things because of financial situations. And so it's making sure they connect them. And like one of the things I want to do as state's attorney is have the county in the courthouse day. So instead of like you having to go to the county services will be right in the courthouse. And that takes a partnership and, collaboration with our county exec and council to do that when I am state's attorney. So I'm really excited for that to hopefully occur. And I think it's going to be a great partnership and a very different role on budget than I take now. And that I help manage the budget. I'm in the weeds of taxes and all of that now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have noticed that 97% of you guys that watch our videos, you're not subscribed. You're not liking the videos, you're not sharing, you're not doing anything. Now, I don't know if it's that you're a silent hater, but I would assume you're enjoying the content. I would assume you're enjoying what we do. I would assume you would love to support us. You would love to see us grow. So please make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, especially your subscription, because it let us know that we are growing. And the more we grow, the more guests we're able to bring on the platform, the more we're able to share our experiences as podcast hosts, and the more we're able to bring you guys exquisite experience, like high level experience. So your support literally is what will build our brand. You, the viewers, you guys looking at this. So when we ask for your subscription, we're asking for more than just, I know it's just easy, right? You're just giving, you just subscribe, but it makes a huge difference into the work that we do. And we hope to see more subscriptions moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, that makes sense. So if you had to change, anything in the school system, or to help families, like what's one change that could really help those teachers, those schools and families?
I mean, it's one of the things I actually put forth at the council so I'll say two things. I did have a proposal at the council that I'll get into, but I always say, it's very hard to demand PGCPS to be everything: caregiver, provider, and teacher, right? So strong families allow kids to prosper in public school. And so we're all interconnected in how our children do. It's two things. On the school side, it's everything that impacts that child at home. So I can't just say there's one thing that'll improve everything, but if you're looking for like an immediate action, I put a resolution in front of the council to actually ban cell phones in K through 12. And it's up to now that passed the council, and it's up to the Board of Education and the superintendent to enact that. Children, these things, man, I don't know. There's a lot of good, but there's a lot of bad with our children. And the reality is, the bullying doesn't stop when you come home. I had parents concerned about my bill saying, well, I can't contact my child with a certain situation. 9 times out of 10, you wouldn't be able to contact your child anyway in an emergency. If the phone's ringing and there's an active shooter, now your child's getting known that they're in the room hiding because the phone's buzzing.
Right.
Number two, if you're always concerned, you can always put an Apple tag on your child, right, with no sound and know where your kid is. And the reality is, what's going to happen when your child makes that one mistake and it's an embarrassing moment and another child films it and it's living in reality for that child forever. Like, what's that doing to your kid, right? And so I really think that phones in our schools are not working. There's been amazing studies. There's actually been a couple of great examples, one in Detroit and others where they got rid of it. It was rough for the first 2-3 months. The kids loved it in the end. They loved it in the end. And they learned how to talk to each other, have great breaks at lunch, and really socialize. And I think as a leader, for me, even as a younger leader in our county, and even someone that hasn't experienced parenting directly yet, but for example, I'm taking my nephews tomorrow. I'm super excited, but I'm an auntie a lot. I'm an auntie to a lot of kids. I tell people will say like, you don't have kids, so what makes you think I don't own utility companies, but I regulate them. I don't own a lot of stuff. Like 89% of the things I vote on and make an opinion on for the public, I don't actually have a direct stake in, right? So what makes it different in this? I live with your kids. And I see that. I think it's just really needed. So I think that is, and the data supports that bill. And that's why that bill was almost unanimous, I believe, at the council.
One thing I want to say is a doctor is not sick, but the doctor is treating you. So.
Exactly. And so people, but obviously your child is your most precious thing. So I understand some parents and some groups of the anxiety with the technology leaving the child's hand. But that's why I think it's amazing. You know, Maryland is not an innovator in this space. You can go look at other schools across the country that have already done it, and they're seeing wins academically, socially, bullying, everything, even crime wise. So as state's attorney, right? When I have kids that are dealing with not only truancy, so they're skipping school, but they're engaging in drugs and other criminal activities. How do you think they're communicating? It's the phone. And let me tell you this, as a defense attorney, I had a young client who just turned 18. The crime happened when they were 17. They also tell on themselves all through the phone.
Yeah.
And the
even
subpoena,
adults do.
they think they're so slick. We got a subpoena. You did what you said you did, and it was all on Instagram to message. So it's also not even protecting your children in the sense of like your child made a mistake and you don't want then caught up in the justice system. Well, if I'm the prosecutor and I'm trying to get to the heart of what the crime occurred, I am going to subpoena the phone. Right? And I'm going to actually pin drop the phone where you were to validate to a jury that you were there. So, I mean, I just get very real talk with parents and community members of what's right. And I would say in the short term, banning cell phones would be a great help to PGCPS and the county. I think long term, you know, when a family doesn't do well, when a mom and dad can't provide, when housing is unstable, when there's abuse in the home, it doesn't matter what you're doing in school, that child is stressed.
Yeah, that's true.
And so that is like, those are the things that we all have to realize for our children, that it takes every ounce of energy we all have to make sure they get the best that we can offer them.
So right now we're just waiting on the superintendent to pass it on.
Yeah. So when we do a resolution, when we don't have different bodies of government have direct authority.
Okay.
The county council doesn't directly control what happens inside the building of schools. We control the buildings itself. And so your school board, which actually votes on the biggest part of the budget in the county, because the budget for the schools is the biggest pot of money.
That's true.
In the county. Okay, our county budget's like $6 million. $3 million is schools on break.
Wow.
The other $3 million, and I just say half so that the school board doesn't argue with me, because I think it's more than 3. But if you don't want to argue, you want to say, they decide on half, we decide on half.
Okay.
And the half I get, I really only decide on 1.5 billion, because by the time I pay for pensions and just building, there's not a lot to debate. So they have the biggest say on that budget of what happens in the classroom. And that is your school board and your superintendent. For those watching that want to have an influence about what's happening with kids. And I would also say our children are very regulated by the state of Maryland. So in the state of Maryland, Annapolis says, this is what you got to do with kids, XYZ. This is what you have to teach. You have to do it. So that it's really your school board and then what Annapolis has to say on education.
Okay. I didn't know that. Oh.
You're welcome. I'm a walking civics class.
Yes.
I've been in this a long time.
All right. That's really good. So now let's look at the future, the vision, right? As a state's attorney. So there's been an outrage about, I don't know if you're familiar with the Rigo Jimenez case, where she killed 2 children and she only got 120 days. A lot of people say that it's like a lack of trust, you know, like it's not enough for the moms and the parents that lost their child. And so they don't trust the legal system. They feel like the legal system is just not doing enough. So would you push for harsher charges for such cases?
I think it depends. I think there's twofold, right? I do think that sometimes the crimes, and just so that people, because some of your watchers might be in DC, so they get confused. Right. Criminal law in the state of Maryland is only changed in Annapolis. We're not like DC Council where I can just change the criminal law when I want, because we're not, they're quasi a state and a city at the same time. So, right, the charge for murder is the charge for murder all over Maryland. So if you want to tweak anything, you got to go to Annapolis to tweak it. That's number one. And I would say, so when it comes to like the charges itself, sometimes we have a case like Lieutenant Collins, right? It was the hate crime at University of Maryland. We needed to lower the standard to prove it was a hate crime. Murder was proven, but it was murky. And I was in that committee at the time. We all looked at it and said, yes, we can change this all for Maryland. Sometimes on a criminal case, depending on the facts, you might not feel, or the victim's family might not feel justice is served But it depends very specifically on and I would want to read the full fact. I know about the case, but I didn't like read the entire case file or all the evidence, right? You'd have to see like, was there something that stood out that we have to change the criminal law for all of Maryland? So when you change it, you're going to change it for Prince George's County and Cecil and Somerset and Wacomico and Baltimore City and Montgomery County. And do the votes in Annapolis agree with that change? And do the fellow states attorneys across the state agree with that change? Now, DC, being a border, it's very confusing. They can change criminal law as they see fit because they're quasi a city and a council at the same time. So criminal law is purely state. So I would say that sometimes justice doesn't always feel good, but I would also throw back to the residents and as state's attorney, were you looking for justice or vengeance? Justice and vengeance are two different things because in criminal law, I have to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt. If there's any question to it, it depends what the jury's going to come back and say to me as the prosecutor. I would also say, and I always use O.J. Simpson because that's easy and people know that. Yeah. O.J. Simpson was found not guilty, right, on the death of his ex-wife or former wife. But he was found culpable in the civil trial, and that's why he had to pay Miss Nicole's family out. Because it's a different standard when you sue. So when you sue on a negligence or whatever occurred. So I would say that I think an easy answer that makes someone feel good is like, of course I believe in a harsher penalty. Let's do that. But also, if you want if you pull back the layers, it's more complicated than that. If you want a harsher penalty on any guilty for that charge, you're requesting a mandatory minimum, which means the judge has no say in the penalty. Mandatory minimums directly impact Black men, which means they end up always getting that and they're in jail for a long time and you can't break it. So the question becomes, do you trust judges' opinions and why we spend so much money on their salaries to make a decision on sentencing? If you say and I give people an example, assault is an unwanted touching. Me touching someone like this is assault. Me smacking someone is assault. If you want the same penalty for an unwanted touch, well, smacking might lead to a second degree assault, but you know what I'm saying. Yes. You have to use you use the judge to say it should be this amount of days or that amount of days. So the thing about justice is it's very live. Every judge has a different opinion. It depends on the facts of that case. Depends on the background of that jurist, of that judge, and the jury pool. Different jury pools come out with different answers, and I almost have the similar case. The courtroom is a fluid thing. It's an active thing. And I think that's why my candidacy versus any of my opponents, I think being in all three roles, being a legislator, being a prosecutor, being defense, I bring a certain level of energy. And this energy is the energy you're going to see in the courtroom. If you're a prosecutor just like, I've been doing this for 20 years and blah, 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 is that going to engage a jury? Yeah. Okay, so it's like there's also like there's the law, but the practice of law also has an art form to it. That's live in the courtroom. And so, I could be tweetable and give a yes answer, but the reality of the answer is it is much more complicated than that when you study the system. Yeah. I had the similar thing with a victim in my district, baby Jeremy, who got killed in Langley Park. It was on the news. It was a crossfire shooting. Mom, innocent toddler, right? And and the mom was very upset, and I wasn't involved in that case, and I was not state's attorney during that case. But I would say to someone, you have to prove that X bullet was X person. When it's a crossfire, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt that it was X person's bullet, A person's bullet, or C person's bullet. There could have been, I think the case could have been handled in a greater way. That is my opinion, but I do try to be honest and give people those things. And what that tells me as well is the top cop at that time, the top prosecutor, are you really holding the hand and walking victims' families through what's going on? Because that's the kind of time I'm going to take with victims' families, is explaining what's going on with the case, having them be a part of every step of the way, and understanding that the kind of mourning they're going through is a kind of pain I will never be able to understand. But justice and vengeance are two different things. And what I can prove in law, and look, when we find that it wasn't just, I am always for going to Annapolis to change it, which is why we changed the law on Lieutenant Collins. We changed the law on strangulation. Men were choking women and it wasn't being and killing them. It's called strangulation in DV cases. We went and up that. We always adjust criminal law, but you also have to convince the rest of Maryland,
right?
The entire Judiciary Committee, the entire Judicial Proceedings Committee in the Senate, that this change is necessary. And if you can do that, then the change is probably a good change. But it will take work. And it's easy to say, of course, I want a harsher penalty. But are you the kind of prosecutor that's going to go out there and get it? That's the difference. And it takes legislative work to do that.
Okay. So you're not just the yes, ma'am, you're facts. You're like, well, I want to say this, but I'm not going to lie to you, which is great because people can easily be like, oh, of course, yes, that was, but we like the fact that you're laying it out.
Yeah,
You're giving us the realities of what that's going to look like and the facts.
Yeah. And I'd have to go see, in the case, what part of it led to the lower sentencing exactly. And then did that reflect a thing in the law or did that reflect the judge's opinion? I couldn't tell you just because I didn't do that case and I didn't follow it line by line. I followed it on the news like everybody else, but it's very different when you read the jury instruction, when you're in there every day for the hearings of the evidence that's presented. Reading a news article about a case as a former prosecutor and as a defense attorney, that's not reading a case.
Have you ever had a case that was really complex where you were kind of torn?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've had cases where one of my cases, it's concluded now, obviously, but it was we dropped the attempted murder. See, the person was upset. The young man hit the other man in the head with a hammer, broke the skull. You could see part of the skull. I did that case. But see, when you add facts, it changes it up. The man that was hit in the head, the victim, had been abusing the other man's sister for 10 years of domestic violence. All this went down at the nephew's birthday. The brother, the defendant, the guy that hit him in the head with the hammer, for sure, he was held. It was a family flame that it just went.
Right.
And so did he definitely do assault? Yes, I got him to plead guilty to the assault.
Right.
But it took a lot of painful time and meetings to say this was not attempted murder. And what also is, you have to still know the culture of your county. The sister who had been abused for 10 years, the defense was going to take the stand and talk about that abuse for 10 years and why the brother went and hit the head in the hammer. So now I know, well, what kind of mentality is my jury going to have now with that fact?
Right.
So I always tell the public, it's just, if I just said guy hit head in the hammer, exposed skull, attempted murder. Yeah, that's murder. Yes. But when I bring you all the facts, well, where do you feel on that? For me, it ended up being a plea of guilt to first degree assault. He ended up doing I think it was in the end, by the time we got there, it was 100 and something days in jail. I did time serve and then 6 months on supervised probation. Wow. And it was a win-win of a guilty on the record, but it was definitely going to be a Russian roulette, like a dance, like a risk to go to trial. And was as a prosecutor, was that worth the risk to lose the case entirely? Or and for some things it is worth the risk, some things it's not.
Yes.
This was an intense family dynamic and crime that led to a very bad criminal action. And I felt the result was, I stand by my same result now, even though it's been 5 years since that case, but I remember it well. I still stand by my guilty plea.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I don't want us to forget about our business owners who listen to this show as well.
Yes.
The video version or the audio version. Do you have any advice for any business owners that are looking to grow in PG County?
Well, Prince George's County is open for business. We are here to support you. Please contact your council member. If you're coming to Hyattsville, Langley Park, Brentwood, North Brentwood, Mount Rainier, I am here. I was actually at a ribbon cutting for iPix Maryland. Awesome for you all. A brand new, amazing podcast studio. These sets were beautiful. It's in Brentwood. Brand new ribbon cutting this morning, supported by the Arts District. We are a place to do business. If you're selling things, you're open late, you have concerns about loitering and crime, we always encourage and we actually mandate if you're open late, like past midnight, a safety plan with PGPD. We're there to help you, and that your business can thrive. And there's a reason why Prince George's County has been known to be one of the biggest Black middle classes in the world. This is a place to do business, and this is a place where residents spend money. And sometimes, you know, from us coming from immigrant backgrounds, you can't determine the money just by the median income. Because sometimes if folks are undocumented and things like that, you might not see their income on paper when you're looking at different realtor folks and things like that. People spend money. We're a diverse community. And Prince George's County welcomes you and wants you to flourish.
Thank you. I love that.
That's great. Okay.
It's good to know.
Yeah. That PG is welcoming businesses, okay?
Yes, and nearly a third of small businesses in Prince George's County are African owned and operated.
Wow. Okay, I did not know that.
A lot, more than you believe. A third of small businesses.
Amazing.
Yes,
That's
yes.
amazing. That's really good. That's really good. Okay, so we're almost out of time, but what is one piece of advice you would give a young woman, you know, trying to get into public service?
I would say don't be afraid to be your authentic self. I definitely am. As you see, I'm wearing pink. I wear pink a lot. I wear it a lot.
I noticed when I looked at your Instagram.
Yes, my old ladies call me the pink prosecutor. It's very cute. I mean,
that is so cute.
And one thing about our county and being diverse, and I say this for men and women voters, I have a lot of men supporters, is that because we are a diverse people, we are also a loving and accepting people. And I feel very blessed to serve the county that allows me to be my authentic self in it. And a lot of women came before me and had to hide and sort of suppress who they were to be accepted in public service. So I would tell young women to be your authentic self, but also know it's going to be a challenge. I think I rose quickly in leadership in the House, and I rose because I am one of the few young women that have a post-undergraduate degree in public service. I'm someone that has a reputation of working hard, knowing my facts backwards and forwards. And there is something in politics where women are held to a higher standard sometimes than men. And just know that if you have that, you will get their respect and you will earn it. And then I think when it comes to residents, it's about being open and caring. And then just know that you have a lot to offer, but know it takes a lot. And that's why it kind of brings us back to the egg freezing bill. One thing I tell young women that are super achieving and want to do the most is like, it's also okay as a woman to focus on what makes you happy. There's nothing wrong that's saying having a relationship or having a baby or owning a house or like that new dress you want for your birthday that's also as important to your happiness as like I performed, I served, I ran for office, I won. And happiness comes in many layers, and you shouldn't carry any shame in wanting happiness. And you know, joy is a form of resistance. And especially in times right now, like being happy and having your mental health is a form of resistance to what's happening. And our ancestors didn't go through all that they went through. For those immigrants that came here from slavery to Jim Crow to everything else, for you to diminish your shine, your authenticity, and not actually fight for your happiness. Don't let our ancestors down. They want you to be happy. They do. They didn't do all that for you to be miserable and tired and overworked and filled with anxiety and looking for gratification in your phone. They died and did all that for you to be the light that God made you to be. So just be that light.
That's a beautiful soundbite. I feel like I could use that for a reel.
Yes.
Wow. Where's you're speaking to me right now, and all the other listeners, actually.
Yeah, I think about my grandma. She was arranged to my grandpa at 19 on my South Asian side, and she would always tell me, "Heartbreak is a privilege." And for young women, we go through a lot of heartbreaks, a lot of disappointments, relationships, whatever. Friendships don't work out.
Tell me about it.
Wonderful business owner. The other day, her teenage daughter came in crying. I didn't know what it was about. It was about a friend thing. You know, they're young, right? It's high school.
Yeah.
And I hugged her and I talked to her about it. you know, heartbreak's a privilege. Women didn't get a ton of opportunities and they had to just sit in misery all the time.
Yeah.
And so when your heart is breaking, know like people fought for you to have that experience, even though it might be negative and painful.
That's true. And I think one thing people would like to know, actually, you know, what is your vision for District 2 and Prince George County moving forward, and why should people vote for you as a state attorney?
Yeah, I think my vision for District 2 is slowly coming together, which is we are the urban, walkable, trying to get there with pedestrian safety. It's a rough road, but we started diverse part of the district where you can find anything. District 2, you can travel the world. You can have a pupusa from El Salvador, the best fish and plantains from this amazing Cameroonian spot, kitchen near you. I'm there all the time.
You know, it burnt down, right?
No, it's still there. They had a little fire, but they're back. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes,
so amazing.
Funny enough, one of the owners was one of our first guests on our podcast.
Oh, amazing! They do. I always get the fish and plantains there, so it's awesome.
Wow.
And then you can go visit, you know, Honcho House, an amazing Black American establishment with Chef Tobias, and you can travel the entire world. You can go see a Black sommelier at Air Wine Bar in Mount Rainier. District 2 is where I'm proud of the work I've done in District 2, and you can travel the world, and more importantly, you can travel our diaspora. Right in the corner of District 2 in Prince George's. We are a light. I always give credit to all my predecessors in the start of the arts district and where we are. There's no way I did all this in 3 years. It's been growing for a long time. I have the joy of finishing some of that vision out. And my goal for Prince George's County as its next state's attorney is to be someone that cares about the safety of all of us, that has a balanced lens to justice, and holding people fiercely and informatively accountable to the crimes and the heinous things they do today, but not feeling afraid to look back at crimes committed in the 80s and 90s where there might not have been any evidence, where the sentences were super harsh because the juries were racially skewed, and that I should go back with my discretion given to me by the state to look at those cases, but I can hold a criminal accountable to the full extent of the law, and that I will not sleep until every Prince Georgian is safe. And I will continue to fight for that. And for the people out there that want to hurt Prince Georgians, you have something coming with Wanika Fisher. And I won't rest till I find you.
Okay.
Wow, that's powerful.
She won't rest, so be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared to because I will find you.
I love that. That's the spirit. I love it.
Damn straight.
So, Ms. Wanika, before we wrap things up, what's one song right now that motivates you?
Oh, that's a good question. What was I listening to this week? I have to say, I mean, it's just crazy. I was listening to I'm a Savage. So that's, I mean, that's on my workout
I'm
playlist.
a Savage. Oh, okay.
Anyway, I can't say all the words, but you know, that's what I mean. I just walk down the street with it and my shoulders get right. And, you know, I'm a millennial.
We had a cool councilwoman and future state attorney here. Okay.
Thank you all so much. I mean, it gives me a bounce to my step. So it is what it is, but it's true.
Thank you so much. I don't know if you have any final words before we
maybe anything like your website or where people find information, voting.
Yes. Please follow me online on Instagram, which is Wanika Fisher. My Twitter's at Wanika Fisher. Facebook is at Wanika Fisher. Our website is www.wanikafisher.com. If you want to volunteer, learn more, come to events, you can click on our Instagram or website for ways to volunteer and get more engaged. This election, the Democratic primary, is June 23rd, 2026. Early voting will be as early as May next year. So we're less than a year away from Election Day. And, you know, just thank you so much to both of you for being such a light in our community, creating this content and taking the time to highlight voices like myself. I'm really grateful to both of you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And Raisa, do you want to wrap things up?
Yes. So the listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode of getting to know more about Ms. Wanika Fisher, to know about her policies, where she's at, the kind of person she is. She's definitely a bubbly person we're happy to have on our platform. Feel free to leave any questions you have, any comments. We're going to share this across our platform. So she would be looking at your comments, reading what feedback you have, and, trying to answer them as we can. And on that note, we'll see you guys on our next episode.
Yes, thank you, guys. Don't forget to like, follow, and share. Have a great day.